Hello and welcome to This Week at the Movies. I'm Matt,
And I'm Eric.
and this week we are coming to you live from the wasteland. Not really, but this week we are going to be talking about the big Memorial Day. Yeah, that's right. Oh, I guess you must be what are the
War Boys.
War Boys? Yeah, I almost messed that one up. I thought of something else that would definitely be political that ends in boys, but um, this week we are talking about the big Memorial Day weekend blockbuster release, which is Furiosa, and we are also going to rewind it and talk about Mad Max Fury Road because these movies are linked. Furiosa, a new prequel to Mad Max Fury Road, which came out all the way back in 2015. I had forgotten how long ago Fury Road took place. It doesn't feel like it was that long ago, but it's been
9 years.
almost 9 years. I think Fury Road came out in the fall, but
Yeah,
almost 9 years going back to a prequel. So obviously, Charlize Theron not playing in the prequel because 9 years did not make her younger. But it seems like this is good to talk about these two movies because it seems like where we leave off with Furiosa, which includes, if you watch through the credits, a recap of the entire plot sequence of Mad Max Fury Road, that they may be doing like a third film that's going back to that's a sequel to Fury Road, which I've seen. It looks like it's in production, called actually The Wasteland.
Ooh.
So we may not be done with this. So which one do you want to start with? The prequel or the first?
Let's start with the prequel. Let's start with what is in the movies right now.
So obviously the big release this weekend, as I just mentioned, Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. This is it's the fifth film in the Mad Max franchise. Of course, Mad Max does not appear in here. Mad Max, the franchise kicked off in 1979 with Mel Gibson. He was in three of them, 1979, 81, 85. And then in 15, they rebooted the franchise with Tom Hardy taking that role. Tom Hardy is listed as a part of The Wasteland, which would be the sequel that'll potentially come out, but no Mad Max in this one.
Except for one shot.
In the credits?
There is a shot that when they start to layer in the timeline of what happened of him that I think is supposed to be a different angle of the opening shot of Fury Road of him standing next to his parked car looking out onto the wasteland as Anya Taylor-Joy is being dragged away after her arm is made to look like her arm. And I think because very quickly in the beginning of Fury Road, Tom Hardy is kidnapped and then there's like a fast forwarding of time for a brief period while things are done to him. And I'm not sure how long that's supposed to take. So I can't 100% tell what it's supposed to be, but I'm pretty sure that's the car. I'm pretty sure it's one shot you get in the movie where you're like, oh, he's out there.
Out there somewhere. But predominantly this one follows Furiosa. We pick up with her as a young child living in the land of plenty that we get as a reference, as a plot point in Fury Road. She quickly gets kidnapped. Her mother sets out after her, not just to try to recover her, but if they can't recover her, to kill anyone who's seen this kind of hidden secret garden area to keep it safe and to keep it protected. She succeeds in that part of the mission, but not in getting her daughter back. Furiosa ends up kidnapped by Dr. Dementis, played by Chris Hemsworth, and a nose prosthetic that probably should have got its own credit billing in this film. I almost, in the early trailers, almost didn't recognize that it was him because of that prosthetic. But her mother is killed. She's kept prisoner, and pretty soon Dementis loses her to something Joe.
Immortan
Joe. The names kind of all, they don't seem like they matter that much, and they also throw me off a little bit. Who is the one that the creepy looking, creepy AF dude who had her at the in Fury Road, who she works for in Fury Road, uh, takes her as a young child. It looks like originally she was meant to be something of one of their wives, but she manages to escape that fate. Gets in tight with a uh, they call them imperators.
Yeah, Imperator. I don't remember how they.
I think it's
Yeah,
imperator.
it's an imperator. Yeah,
Uh, she who she learns from, as yeah, imperator. Uh, who she learns from. They become real tight. They make a plan to escape. Things go off the road. Literally, when Dementis decides that he's going to try to take the Citadel and another lovely looking, charming burg called Bullet Town. And at this point, now Anya Taylor Joy has taken over the role, and we kind of see all the things that helped turn her into the warrior. We've seen, the shaved head, the obviously missing an arm, all these questions that maybe you had when you were seeing the character in Fury Road kind of get answered here. I will be honest, I have not always loved the Mad Max movies. I appreciated the original Mad Max movie, which is probably the most grounded of all of the movies because it's set in something akin to a real world setup. It's supposed to be where things are starting to fall apart. I appreciated some of the visuals for Fury Road, but as we'll talk about in a minute, that was not my favorite. I actually liked this one. I liked getting an explanation and some backstory and seeing who this character was, seeing what made them into what they were. I thought there was a little more interesting world building here. Still some good action sequences. It's 2 hours and 28 minutes. Feels a little long to me. I think there are certainly some things that I could have gotten cut out. I don't go all in for some of the weird carnage and weird dystopic choices that they've made. It definitely looks like a future that I hope I don't live long enough to see. Um, but I am going to give this one a thumbs up. This actually might be my favorite of the Mad Max movies.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I liked Furiosa. This is a very solid one thumb up. The only things that are keeping me from giving it two thumbs up, which again feels kind of stingy to do because this is another one of those movies that it's an incredible feat of filmmaking to have pulled off what they pulled off. Is again, it's the pacing, like you said. This that and I think this world that they are building to me serves a story like Fury Road very well and serves this kind of story differently and not in a way that I'm more of a fan of. And what I mean by that is, and I'll talk about this more in a little bit, but Fury Road was a movie that was designed based on the concept, what if we just had a whole movie that was just one car chase from beginning to end, when the car chase is over, the credits roll, and then it developed from there. And so I think they built a world that is very unlike the worlds in Thunderdome, the first Mad Max, and is the most similar to the Road Warrior, but even still is a little more unique to that area, the wasteland. That built area, the wasteland, is, they establish in Fury Road that there's a bullet farm, that there's a gas place, a place that gives water and they bullets, and these are all the things that they need, and they have this little cycle, this symbiosis or whatever that they feed off each other. And I really liked Dementis as a character in this, which as a result made me feel very into Furiosa's story. I do think when the light hits that nose weird, it becomes a completely different skin tone from the rest of his body. It's so distracting to me. I don't know why. Like I just, you don't have to
I
do
wonder
it.
if
I
they
don't
were
know.
trying to hide that it was Chris Hemsworth.
It's very possible, but it didn't work. That's
But I
to
mean,
me.
almost every person in there has some kind of weird physical. I mean,
Yeah,
half
that's
those
true.
guys have their faces are just effed beyond
Yeah,
recognition or
absolutely.
something. So I don't know if they were trying to just that he needed an affectation. But like I said,
Well,
I didn't recognize him in the trailer. Then they flash
yeah.
Hemsworth's name. I was like, I wonder what he played. Oh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and so the two girls who play Furiosa in this movie, I think both of them do a phenomenal job. Um just enough dialogue, very well put together, extremely well directed. Again, almost flawlessly directed. Like even some of the more wild things, like how Furiosa hangs onto the bottom, not just of the war rig, but when she's a little girl, she's supposed to have like jumped off and hung onto the bottom of this pipe in order to get away from the being a wife. And I'm just like, she's gonna die. And then the movie just kind of fades away from that and is like, and of course she got out of that. And it's like, what? But it does some ridiculous things like that, and I buy into it because I buy into the aesthetic and the pacing and then and the like of the action sequences and things like that. Um yeah, I like the world that they build. I don't like that world just for its own sake. I like that world as a concept that fuels an action movie. So having to take our slow time with it and build off of this like underlying theme of like war lasts forever and this is another war and it's in human nature and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, I don't need that. The more it skews personal to Furiosa, the more I like this movie. So yeah, one thumb up.
yeah.
Had a blast.
That's probably where I would have tightened some things down.
Yeah,
You know, the best to
unbelievable set
me,
pieces.
yeah, and the best action sequence I think too for me is when Furiosa is gaining her position
Yeah.
with the other Imperator, which I think is played by Tom Burke.
Mhm.
You know, that was probably the most intense, and that was a longer one, and that worked fine for me. I thought
Yep.
that was um, pretty interesting.
That the
And then
bullet farm
the
siege.
bullet farm was important, but
Yeah.
it's, you know, you have some of the random, or even the way they sort of draw out the beginning sequence, like after she gets kidnapped and they're following
Mhm.
through the desert.
Yeah.
You know, you could tighten down. I think I would have enjoyed this movie more if we were talking about it as like an hour and 50 minutes as opposed to 2 hours and 28 minutes. Feels a little bit bloated, and you have a long credit sequence
Mhm.
that's in there, so it's probably more like, you know, 220. But I think if you trimmed like 20 to 22 minutes out and tightened some things, you know, you could have made it.
Yeah, it's tricky. You could have made. I don't know how different it would be though. I do think a part of this is about a more slow, methodical look at the same thing. Oh,
I think
interesting.
I think
Hold on, we
it's
have a comment. Am I the only one who finds it odd that she was called Furiosa as a kid? I assume she got the name for being a badass warrior. She did in the movie. She was
no,
called
that's her. That was her.
Imperator.
Imperator
Imperator.
is her title. Fury. He's saying Furiosa.
Hmm.
He thought the name Furiosa came because of her furiousness as
Yeah.
a soldier,
I don't.
when apparently it was her given birth name.
Was it though? I don't remember
Yeah,
hearing her name
at the
said.
very beginning, they talk about
Oh
her
yeah, the
mother.
little girl.
Furiosa
Yeah,
was
the little
kidnapped,
girl is. Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay. Well, that's weird. Why
and
did she tell them her real name?
her sister's name was Valkyrie.
Yeah, but like, why? Like, of all the things she was trying to keep secret, why did she tell them her real name and then keep her real name after she was trying to hide from being a bride?
That was they never seemed to put two and two together, that she became a bride, that she was originally a bride that escaped, or that
Yeah.
other imperator had such pull that he was able to, because she knows who, everyone knows who she is, because when she's trying to get pulled up out of the pit, she says, I'm Imperator Furiosa,
Yeah. Well, and
and
I
they know
assume
who.
people know her by her title. Like, that's
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So
interesting.
for all the slow playing they do, there are things
Yeah,
you don't.
still little things here and there.
But you know, I they definitely have some action sequences and things. So as we're transitioning, obviously Mad Max Fury Road, coming out in 2015, was not only wildly popular with audiences, it was actually very popular with the awards bodies. It was nominated for 11 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. It actually won six, I believe. Let me see the victory. Um, where it lists nominees. So it won for editing, for costume design, for makeup and hairstyling, for sound mixing and sound editing, which they've since combined into one. So uh, can't get that, and for production design. So it was a big kind of below the line awards. So before we go into talking about that movie, let's talk about going back to Furiosa for a minute. Obviously, the look, the style, all those things probably come into play again. Do you think this ends up being a player for the awards? Because I think so far, I think Dune 2 is going to be a huge player in the awards. There are movies I've liked that have come out this year since then, but I don't know if I think they're locks to be an awards competition. This might be the first one of summer that could potentially be in there. It was pretty well received when it played at Cannes. Um, it's a very highly anticipated sequel. So, do you think it's going to be the first? Fury Road, as I mentioned, 11 total nominations, won six.
Yeah, I mean, I was only as much as Fury Road was. I think, yeah, I think there's definitely a lot in here to appreciate about movie making, but it's the kind of stuff that the Fall Guy points out, whether people like that or not. That doesn't necessarily get Academy praise. Um, you know, eh, like I don't know. Maybe.
I could see it getting technical awards. I think
Yeah,
we'll have to
sound
see
editing.
how the rest of the year plays out. But if we were, we're sitting here, we're almost to June. There's only one movie I think is a lock so far for a Best Picture nomination this year, and that's Dune 2. That, like I said, there are movies I like. I really like Challengers. I really like Civil War. I don't know that those were universally well liked. I think Challengers will probably be an Oscar contender,
Yeah,
maybe not in the Best Picture. We will have to see, but I think Furiosa is a movie that could definitely be a player in a lot of the production categories where it was a winner before: production design, costume, hair, makeup, cinematography. I think all those things were pretty visual effects. If they ever decide to add stunts, you know, might work its way in there.
there's one more comment there. Missing Tom Hardy's Mad Max. It's funny. It reminds me that the other. How do you say it again? Imperator.
Imperator Furiosa.
Imperator. The other one definitely felt like a Mad Max stand-in, and I thought that was really odd to do. Um, Also, that guy could totally play Mad Max.
Mm.
Like, you definitely have a backup for Tom Hardy. I did though. I really would like to see another installment with Tom Hardy as the character doing that. So branching off, we had this joke running, my wife and I, that like, well, we met that guy, and so now the next movie is going to be a prequel that tells his backstory, and then he's going to have a mentor or some character that is like a sideline, like has their own quest going on, and then the next movie is going to be their prequel, and that's just how that'll progress.
That's what I was trying. It looks like they're already in production on Mad Max: The Wasteland. It doesn't have a
Mhm.
set release date, and the only actor that's currently attached is Tom Hardy.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, so it looks like they are definitely going to go back to. Uh,
How
uh,
would you feel about seeing Anya Taylor Joy, then Charlize Theron, then Anya Taylor Joy again,
I
like in
don't.
timeline order?
I think if it's supposed to be a sequel to
Fury
Fury
Road.
Road, which is what it says it is,
Mm.
that Potentially, I guess you would go back to Charlize Theron.
I don't know if it's supposed to take place just after the end of Fury Road. I don't
But
know.
she is Furiosa, and
Yeah.
well, and they definitely show her as Furiosa, like I said, over the credit sequence
Yeah.
of this one. So
Yeah, which
Anya
I
Taylor
really thought
Joy
was
might
going
be kind of
somewhere.
a one and done because of the way that they did it all. So let's go back to Fury Road. You know, obviously was pretty popular for many, a Best Picture nominee. I did not love it as much as other people. I appreciated the craft. I mean, if we were doing it, I would give it one thumbs up for. I think it was very technically proficient. I almost feel about Fury Road the way I feel about the first Dune,
Oh, really?
which was that I thought it was a great technical achievement, very very solid from filmmaking, but I didn't always care enough about the story or the characters to really invest. Um, you know, that was to me a little bit of the difference between the two Dune movies. I was much more invested in the characters and the story in the second one, which is what kind of puts it over the top for me. Didn't quite, you know, there were moments where I was trending that way with Furiosa, but I think technically still both of them very similar to me. But you, it sounded like Fury Road quite a bit more.
I love Fury Road. It's an absolute blast. It's a movie that I can't rewatch too often because I overdid it when it came out. And so now I just know all the beats in my head. So it feels like playing a song that I've overplayed in my head. Yeah, it's. I am curious because of the laying the groundwork and the emotional investment of this movie. Would that impact your experience rewatching Fury Road?
I don't know. That's an interesting question too, because I really watched Fury Road a couple weeks ago to get ready for
Mhm.
Furiosa. I've been rewatching. You know, we've had nothing but franchise movies. It seems like
Yeah,
throughout the summer, so there's been a lot of homework that's had to be. I mean, yes, you don't have to, but I always like to refamiliarize myself and set myself back in there, whether I loved what came
absolutely.
before or not. So I didn't watch all of the Mad Max movies, but I definitely watched Fury Road to prepare for Furiosa. And you know, I thought about the same thing of it. I appreciate. I guess I. It's interesting to me. You talk about you're very excited to see Tom Hardy play Mad Max again. That was one of the things I connected with the least in
Mhm.
Fury Road, and so I really didn't miss him not being in Furiosa. I liked Charlize Theron. I liked Furiosa. I didn't really get that invested in the other ladies that she's carrying. And we have some fine actresses that were in there. Zoe Kravitz was one of them. Riley Keough was one of them. And I was kind of grossed out about Emote Joe and all of the world and everything. So,
Mhm.
you know, just not a lot that I connected with there.
So that's the thing for me. That's what Fury Road is. Fury Road started as like, all right, we have this world. And if you think of just the installments of Mad Max, you have Mad Max, which is a mildly grounded in reality, wild cop revenge story that is kind of neat. And then you have the Road Warrior, which is insanely different and is a post-apocalyptic, like, well, wasteland. And you have Lord Humongous and leather and like all of this stuff that you're like have to like they're like, okay, this only happened how many years after the first movie and we've gone this far out of society. But like that I think is a very good movie in its own right. And then you have Thunderdome, which seems like it takes place in the same world, but then has this whole different culture that's brought up where the second half of that movie and the titular uh Thunderdome is like a totally different vibe from the other one. And so Fury Road was this idea of like, all right, in this world, in this sandbox that I've played in before, what if we made a movie that was just a car chase from beginning to end? And coming up with that and designing the whole movie where they are supposed to start by taking off and it's supposed to be like she has my brides after her and it just goes, and when the car chase is over the movie is over. And then obviously some things changed throughout that where as they layered in the groundwork of the characters in the world, it gave different beats where they have to stop here, run out of gas here, try and find Furiosa's old place of living, and just like let some character beats play out. But the primary thing was, let's make a non-stop action movie. So along that vein, they have to make you hate the villains as quick as possible, which they do, whether it's because you're grossed out by them or whatever. They just made like the most reprehensible sort of people to be immediately like very, very straight in your face. I mean, they almost wanted to shoot the movie in black and white. That's why there's a black and white version that you can get called the Blood and Chrome edition or something like that. And it's supposed to be like good guy, bad guy. Like Max is this myth character who just rolls along and is a part of stories. And this was going to be its own story. And they just needed you to be able to get the point and go. But in doing that, they layered so much interesting concept. Like the War Boys are interesting, but you don't get to learn a lot about them. You just learn how they work so that it services the plot. You learn about the Bullet Farm and Gas Town and the things that are in the wasteland, but you never see Gas Town. You don't spend time at the Bullet Farm. They're just words that seem to generate images so that when a guy comes out in the dark shooting bullets and he's covered in bandoliers and things like that, you're like, got it, the bad guy from Bullet Farm. And that's what everything felt like in Furio to me, is everything services this ride that is a technical marvel. They've almost everything except for like a few shots in that movie are layered together practical images. So if there's an explosion that's supposed to be bigger, then they filmed a bigger explosion and they just composed that over the smaller explosion that happened when a dude jumped off a real truck with a safety wire on him. Like I think it's like 3 shots that are digitally created in that movie. The rest of them are digitally touched up, but like only 3 shots, in the thing. And so, just talk about just an insane commitment to making a nonstop thrill ride. But it makes you ingest a whole world that has never been really defined or explained. Because you're only getting these little snippets in the other Mad Max movies, and really only 2 and 3. And so this is the first movie, Furiosa, I think, where they're actually like, let's lay the groundwork and let's tell a mythological story and let's build characters. And what is the history of how one person took Gas Town and this?
Maybe I like that better.
Yeah, I'm actually really curious rewatching Fury Road if what happened to Gas Town, because there is no one running it.
Or who ends up taking it over, because they have the same guy playing the Bullet Farmer. In both, so he must have gotten his. But what happened to the people from the Bullet Farm town? You never, because this is a prequel. They essentially, did they get wiped out, or are they? I mean, you don't really know.
Yeah, that is a whole thing that also felt a little bit bizarre to me. It's like they get there and they spring this trap that they've
sounded like
taken it.
Dementis. They kept saying there were different factions and stuff, and unless some of that protesting was a ruse, I guess you're supposed to believe now that was.
Well, I see. That's the thing. Then there's some stuff in Furiosa that is missing that I want to know more about, which is in that big action sequence where Furiosa tries to earn her title. The person they are fighting is the guy with horns who was with Dementis, but in that scene isn't, because they don't consider that Dementis attacking the war rig. They consider that his own...
Well, you kind of got the sense he was going to break off from Dementis because his guys got volunteered to be the War Boys. They planted the seeds for there being a rift there.
Right, but how big was that? Was that guy just a one-off thing? Was he the one who took the Bullet Farm? Well,
Well, Dementis took the Bullet Farm.
I know, but how? And
Yeah.
like because it's very clean. It's not like there's fires and dead bodies everywhere when they get there with the Warwig to drop everything off. Like it's so it feels like it was a very like
Or maybe they joined
I don't know.
forces. Maybe he
And
convinced them to join forces so that they could
yeah,
overthrow a Moten Joe, because like the bullet farmer who's supposed to be running Bullet Town isn't there.
right. And that yeah. Gee, I wonder who that is in the TVV podcast. Um it could be a completely original person. I'm sorry if we actually don't know you, but is that
No, it's
Ricky?
Ricky.
Yeah, that's Ricky. um, so yeah,
The Valero verdict.
they point out okay. They point out that jeez. They point out
I think you mean
that
worst, but
no, it gets worse every time you see it. The Garfield movie was better. Uncut Gems was better. Oh no. Okay. So yeah, I was gonna say they point out that Dementus is doing a bad job running
yeah.
Gastown. We don't know 100% why.
I'm thinking that was supposed to be a ruse now to get them to think that he was tenuously losing control while he was really plotting to and
Yeah.
working
Okay,
with
I
the
can
other
buy that.
ones. And maybe he already had some kind of a deal with the Bullet Town people, because as soon as the Bullet Farmer, the guy that's loyal to Moten Joe, leaves, Bullet Town gets taken over. So maybe they already were working behind the scenes.
I never saw Blonde.
It's
Yeah.
3 hours of your life you'll never get back.
Oh god. Good to know. Um
But it'll be interesting to see. Like I mentioned, the Fury Road. A lot of people liked Fury Road.
mhm.
It's never been my favorite, but I did appreciate some of the craft, and I could see um, that being where Furiosa does well. I don't know about the Fury Road never got anything for performers or for performances. Um, George Miller got nominations, so be curious. I will say this did not make me any more excited for the rumor that after working with Chris Hemsworth, now he's interested in doing Thor 5.
George Miller?
Yeah, I mean, if we went from
I mean, you can't really step down from Love and Thunder, I think. And if you get someone
hard disagree.
you really like Love and Thunder.
I do like Love and Thunder. I liked both the Taika Waititi films.
I love
I
Ragnarok.
liked the first one a lot better, but
Yeah.
no, and if there was nothing about me watching this movie that thought, boy, I could see they had such a
Thor.
connection here. I would like to see them take on the world of Thor. Uh,
You're just coming up with different Night Swim was better.
uh, it wasn't.
And now I'm curious how many he could come up with.
Well, and you missed out on Night Swim when we did it
I
earlier
know.
this year. It is now streaming on Peacock.
And we're continuing the trend where I seem to have like a higher opinion of the movies. Like my soul wasn't as gutted from watching Night Swim in January.
So
It's on Peacock now,
it's
and I
on
keep
Peacock.
thinking like I can't watch this because it'll make me hate the rest of the movies this year. Just,
There's probably there's probably a few thousand of them. So good luck with that. I'd be
that's
surprised.
genius. That's good.
I'd be surprised if I gave Blonde 1 star. I gave it half a star.
Okay.
But well, that'll do it for our look at the Wasteland. Until let's see, it took them 9 years to make the sequel. So what's 9 years from now? In 2033, when we get 52-year-old Tom Hardy. Actually, I should look up how old want to sell them short because
See, even that sounds appealing to me. Like a 50-year-old Tom Hardy, like climbing on the back of a big rig truck. Like I'd take my money. That's fine. Shoot me into the wasteland.
I mean, I hope I
I
never
miss
have to
you,
live
Ricky.
in the wasteland. 77, so he's 4 years older than me. So he's 47. Yeah, so he would be in 9 years. He'll definitely be in his 50s. Um,
Oh, wait. Has he seen Bike Riders?
yes,
Have you seen it?
no. Math is hard. So we'll see how long it takes them to do the wasteland. For fans of this
Yeah.
franchise, probably happy to know it continues. For fans of seeing something else, we are next week. I don't know if you've looked ahead, but there are not a lot of mainstream wide releases in the theaters, which is weird for the end of May. I think we are starting to see a real clampdown on the pace and volume of new releases in theaters, probably starting to catch up with the writers and actors strike that we had at the end of last year. So Eric and I are going to celebrate movies that are turning 25 years old, do a little 1999 rewind next week. We're going to look at 4 films from 99, The Mummy, The Matrix, The Green Mile, and the ultimate classic, Lake Placid. So
All right.
uh, I am very excited to dive in. 99 was the year I graduated from high school, so it is making me feel a little bit old to think about those things turning 25. But them's the breaks. So um, gives you some time to go check those out. The classic Brendan Fraser,
Yeah, you have time to see
Keanu
The Matrix.
Keanu Reeves' greatest film, The Matrix. David E. Kelly, the writer for Lake Placid, actually a movie that I blew Eric's mind, has Bridget Fonda and Betty White in it. And The Green Mile, which is based on the Stephen King novel. And if you've never read
Yeah.
the novel, I don't know if you have enough time to read that 500-page book, but you can try.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
we will look forward to that. And until next time, I hope you guys survive your trips to the wasteland. We will see you at the movies.